Hi everyone. I am here on your computer screens because I'm recording this lecture about structure of a body paragraph. Now, there are three different types of paragraphs within an essay, and we will cover all of this content in a few weeks, maybe next week. I don't know, not right now, but we'll talk about the introduction. We'll talk again about body paragraphs, and we will talk about the conclusion. But right now, I want to talk about body paragraphs because in the first unit, the first three assignments that I ask you to write, when I say write a paragraph, I really mean a body paragraph because I want to work with the details and specific content as opposed to any introduction or concluding materials. So that's why I'm starting with a body paragraph in this lecture. There are three sections to a body paragraph, and once you learn all of this information, this content is what is in every single body paragraph for most all academic essays. You can, of course, tailor it to the type of essay that you're writing. So, like in our second section, you'll see there are a lot of options for supporting details. You don't pick all of them. You don't have to pick all of them. Most of the times you will not do all of them in a body paragraph for an academic essay, but there's a lot of options here. So I'm going over the blanket stuff, and then I will try to tailor them specifically for the personal narrative me response, where you pick a quote. If you have not already watched the video with the week 2 overview, please go back and watch that, because I think that understanding some of the references I make to that assignment will be confusing if you haven't watched it. Okay, so I'm going to start here at the top where you see structure of a body paragraph. So the first sentence, and it's only one sentence, is a topic sentence. Now, a topic sentence is basically the main idea of your paragraph. You want to tell your reader what you're going to write about from the get-go, from sentence number 1. And that doesn't mean saying anything like, in this paragraph, I will talk about my favorite quote. That's not at all what you would say. Whatever the main idea is, the quote is the main point of analysis, for example, but what is the main idea? Like, what are you sharing with me? So that's what you want to put in that topic sentence. And oftentimes a topic sentence will have a keyword or a key phrase that is reflected again in the concluding sentence and is also found in your thesis. So quick recap, your thesis statement, and you're like, what are you recapping? Nothing that I've taught you yet, but hopefully something that you've learned in a previous class. So quick side note, a thesis statement is the main idea of your whole essay. Well, topic sentences are like mini thesis statements for the paragraph. It's the main idea of that paragraph. I'm going to use a very, very juvenile example, I guess, a very simplistic example to explain this. So let's say I ask you I want you to write an essay, and the prompt is, what are your 3 favorite colors and why? So in your thesis, very simplistically, you might say something like, my 3 favorite colors are teal, brown, and gray. Then in each of your body paragraphs, so let's say you have a series of 3 body paragraphs. The first body paragraph you talk about, the subject matter might be about the color teal. The second body paragraph might be about the color brown, and the third body paragraph might be about the color gray, and that's the same order that we found in our thesis statement. My 3 favorite colors are teal, brown, and gray. So your topic sentence then, if we're talking about for that first body paragraph where we're going to talk about teal, we might say something like, one of my favorite colors is teal because it reminds me of where I went to college. And then you would talk about how you associated the color teal with college, and that would be the main idea of the paragraph. In your second body paragraph, your topic sentence, which is that main idea, might say something like, my second favorite color is brown because it is a natural neutral, a natural neutral that I look good in or something like that. And then you would talk about that, right? You would relate those two concepts together. In your third body paragraph, again, we're talking about gray. You might also say, my third favorite color is gray because it reminds me of the color of the sky in September, which is my birthday month or something like that, right? So your topic sentence for the purposes of this class should always be the first sentence in your body paragraph. Now, if you think about it, and you think about a lot of the things that you've read, particularly from newspapers, journals, magazines, those paragraphs don't always have the very first sentence being the topic sentence. Sometimes there's a quote in the first sentence. Sometimes the first sentence is introducing a personal story, or sometimes the first sentence is talking about a time and a place. Well, the thing is, which is frustrating, but those writers are, I guess, breaking the conventions. Also, they may not necessarily be adhering to an academic writing style. What you see here in this lecture is academic writing for a body paragraph. Journalism is not always the same as academic writing. Sometimes it can be, and certainly mimics itself at times, but it's not always the same. Also, if it is academic writing, like it's a scholarly article, but it does not adhere to these rules, you might say, well, that's funny. How come I can't break the rules too? Well, the rule of that is you have to know the rules in order to be able to break them. So because this is English 111, we're working on knowing the rules. And if you already know the rules, stick to those rules. You can break those rules in your other classes, but not here. So I'm very specific about the structure. Okay, so the topic sentence, the main idea, should be your very first sentence. And then you're going to have, if a body paragraph has a minimum of, I think, old school people would say three sentences. No, that's not enough for me. A body paragraph for me has to have at least 5 sentences. So if I'm looking at just the 5-sentence paragraph, then I would say the second through the 4th sentence are your supporting details. But I've also added this plus here because I don't want you guys to get hung up on there has to be exactly 5 sentences in every single one of my body paragraphs. That is just the basics. Really well-developed paragraphs have more than 5 sentences, but not, too many sentences to where you should break that into multiple paragraphs. So here's where you get supporting details. And the first question I would ask my students is, well, what are these details supporting? Well, they're supporting whatever claim you made in your topic sentence. So in my super simple example, if I said my first favorite color is teal because it reminds me of where I went to college, then I would need to talk more about that. I would need to provide something along these lines that I've highlighted here from A through E in order to talk about that. I could provide a personal story. I could provide an example if that applied. I could provide a quote from research, again, if that applied. In my teal example, it doesn't really seem to apply. I could elaborate. I could provide logical reasoning or facts and statistics. But all I'm doing is supporting what I said. Now, as you get into more advanced writing that requires argument and making claims, writing that goes beyond what we are doing in Unit 1, which is talking about ourselves, you will, of course, have to support those claims. So you make your topic sentence as the main idea. It's the claim or the argument you're making in that paragraph, and the details you provide below it should support that claim. It's like construction. You have a roof, but you cannot have the roof without all of the details inside of the house to support and hold up that roof. So the types of supporting details that you can have, I've kind of gone through some of these quickly. Of course, in our first assignment, you can talk about yourself, so you can have a personal story or an anecdote. There will be times in class where you can't write about yourself at all, and you can't even say, I think this, or in my opinion. If you have essay requirements for other classes and you're not sure, can you use a personal story as supporting details? ask your instructor, because that's going to be very important to know one way or the other. You can use examples to support your claim made in your topic sentence. You can quote, or I will require in some assignments too that you incorporate quotations, and I'll show you how to do that. But the majority of supporting details are really founded on D, which is explanations, elaborations, and logical reasoning. If you ever choose to go on and take my English 112 class, that's the majority. Analysis, explaining things, logicking, can I say it like that? Providing reasoning for your logic. All of those things are really the best ways to support your topic sentence. And then, of course, if you have facts or statistics that apply, you can add those in. So the middle part, that's like the meat and potatoes of your paragraph. Without supporting details, your paragraph is weak. It is not developed. So if I ever comment on your work and I say, I think you should develop this further, then what I mean is you need more supporting details to really back up the claim or the idea that you're presenting here. Okay, and then the final section of the structure of a paragraph is the section that my students will leave off. The second section, supporting details, is the section my students will not do enough of, but concluding sentence, the final sentence, is something that students often just don't even think that they need at all, because I think here's the reason. So a concluding sentence recaps the main idea of the paragraph. But if you've ever made the claim in your writing, I feel like I'm being too repetitive, I feel like I'm saying the same thing over and over again, then you might leave off accidentally the concluding sentence, because an essay really is essentially a very big circle. Your body paragraphs start with a claim, go through all the supporting details, and come back around to that claim. That's what they should do. That's why I'm telling you, you need to have a concluding sentence. Your paragraphs do that, and your whole essay does that, right? In the introduction, it starts with a thesis statement, which is your claim. It goes through all the supporting details, which is the body paragraphs of your paper. And then it comes back to the conclusion and it restates that claim in the conclusion. So a paragraph is very circular and very cyclical. And if you feel like you are talking in circles, and if you feel like you're saying the same thing over and over again, you actually might be doing exactly what academic writing, due to the structure of academic writing, is asking you to do. So do not forget a concluding sentence. It's very important. A lot of students will think that a paragraph, let's see if I can manipulate this really quickly. A lot of students will think that a paragraph should look like an upside down triangle. So I might have a student who says, my paragraph looks like this: a broad topic sentence, narrowing down into specific details, coming to the most specific detail at the end. However, if you end on a specific detail and you have a lot of intense ideas, your audience, the person reading your essay, might forget about the broad claim that you made at the beginning of your paragraph. So really, what a body paragraph should look like visually is a broad claim at the beginning, narrowing down into those specific details, but then broadening back up just a little bit at the end of the paragraph. So almost like a funky shaped hourglass, or I'm not gonna lie, that looks like a cereal bowl. This is more of like visually what a body paragraph should look like. Broad, narrow, broad, just a little bit, not all the way. Okay, so please ignore this silly drawing. Don't write upside down triangle paragraphs. Don't forget your concluding sentence. Try to have the same keyword or key phrase or a synonym or variant of it in both your topic sentence and concluding sentence. Now what I want to do in this lecture is give you an example of that. And in order to do that, I'm going to color code my notes with the information in this example. So my notes say that a paragraph should start with a topic sentence, and I am going to give you an example paragraph for the narrative paragraph response 1. This is the me or the quote response that I introduced in the week 1 overview, or excuse me, the week 2 overview video. So if you don't know this assignment, please go and watch that video. So here's my first sentence, and this is my topic sentence, and that will tell me what I am writing about in this paragraph. So it says, lately I have been thinking a lot about being as present as possible in my daily life. That's what this paragraph is about. Me thinking about being present. Yes, I asked you guys to write a paragraph about a quote, but the quote itself is just what you're analyzing. The message that I'm sending in this paragraph isn't the quote, it's how I connect to that quote, which is why this is the me response. So you don't want to put the quote right away as the very first thing in your paragraph. You want to gently lead into that by providing, again, that broad segment, the main idea. So I'm going to color code this as green. And I'm going to use more of a gentle color because those highlighted colors really kind of freak me out. Okay, and then just as a reminder, your first sentence is your topic sentence. That is, again, that green segment. So now I know that if I have my first sentence as my topic sentence, what I should see next are supporting details. And I could find any of these types of supporting details in my paragraph. And remember, the assignment sheet for this example is going to have specifics of exactly what I want you to put in this paragraph. So don't forget to check that out too. All right, so now I'm saying I attended a workshop a few weeks ago. The presenters had the audience watch a video by Dr. Steve Robbins. In it, he discusses bias and inclusion, but one thing he says and proves quite clearly with a few simple activities is that, and now I transition into a quote, so I'm going to pause here. So this sounds like what? Does it sound like an example? Does it sound like a personal story? Does it sound like quotes from research, an explanation, or facts? I am going to call this a personal story. So I'm going to put this in yellow. And I'm also going to put this in yellow. And then we get our quote. And so Dr. Steve Robbins says, you actually cannot multitask the way you think you can multitask. So I'm going to highlight that because that is, like you see here on my notes, quotes. Is it research? Not necessarily, but it is a quote. So I am going to put that in blue. And I am also going to highlight it here in blue as well. Okay. Then I have, and so you'll notice, not only is the quote not my first sentence, but it's also not my second or my third sentence. I wait to put the quote in until it's absolutely relevant to what I'm saying. Now I'm going to talk specifically about that quote and relate it to my topic sentence. So I said in my topic sentence, which you see here is green, and I apologize if you're colorblind, lately, I've been thinking a lot about being as present as possible in my daily life. So I need to address that. I don't want to just say, I went to a workshop and I got this quote. That's not enough. That's ending at a point on the end of an upside down triangle. We need to talk more about this, right? So how does the quote speak to being as present as possible? So here's my discussion. This quote spoke to me on multiple levels, but the place where it applied most was at home. I think about my son, who is 1.5 years. Sometimes as I watch him play, my mind will wander to work or Facebook, and I'll reach for my phone. There have been times where I will look up and see him climbing on something dangerous, reaching for a lamp, or ripping a page out of one of Dad's books. Oops. After hearing this quote, I have come to realize that while I can task switch, I can't multitask. I cannot simultaneously look at my phone and pay attention to my son. And what I have always known is, of course, my son is more important than my phone. So here is this discussion where I talk more about the quote and how it affects me, but I'm providing some specifics regarding this. So I think this can function in so many ways that we see on our notes page, and I'm going to use it as just one chunk. What I feel like it is overall encompassing and how I'm going to color code it here is explaining, elaborating, logical reasoning. But some of you, if you are like, I don't know, pausing this video to say, oh, let me think before she tells me the right answer, I'm going to highlight it in purple. You might say, well, Wasn't your son an example of how you're being more present in your life? Yes, absolutely. So I think that if you wanted to highlight examples, if you are color coding, then you could do that too, because it is an example. Am I not elaborating on this example? Am I not elaborating on the quote? Yes, I'm also doing that. You might even say, is this not a personal story about your life? Yes, it is. So here I could also highlight this in purple as well, because it is a personal story. It's something specific to me. So when you guys think about supporting details, I want you to think about them as not just cut and dry. Sometimes there's a lot of gray areas, and sometimes they overlap. So then we get into the very final, I forgot to highlight this in purple. Then we get into the very final segment of this paragraph, and that is our concluding sentence, right? And like I said here, your concluding sentence should be the last sentence of your paragraph, and it should recap the main idea. So I said the main idea. So lately I've been thinking about being as present as possible in my daily life. I should be able to see something similar restated in the conclusion. Dr. Robbins' quote reminds me to be present, to work harder at being where I am when I am there. I think that works pretty well. So I am going to highlight this, and I'm going to pick orange, although it almost looks yellow to me. Okay, so I'm going to put that in orange. Here, if you notice again, like we see in the notes, and I talk about this concept of a key word, what do you see in both the concluding sentence and in the topic sentence? For me, I'm going to underline it. I see the word present. So present is here, and present is here. That is the main idea of my paragraph. That's the subject matter that I'm talking about. Yes, I'm analyzing a quote. Yes, I'm giving examples. But overall, the message that I'm trying to send here is I'm working on being present. And this quote helps me to remind myself to do that. So this is the structure of a paragraph. Here are your notes. And this is, again, a color-coded block of how you see those notes functioning in a paragraph. What I would encourage you to do, and I'm going to stop this video now because it's getting entirely too long, but what I would encourage you to do is once you have finished writing your own personal narrative paragraph response 1, which is that me quote response, I would encourage you to try and identify your sentences and color code them in the same way that you have these notes here. You don't have to pick the same colors that I have. But if you're color coding from your notes and you say, okay, let me highlight my topic sentence in purple. Let me highlight my topic sentence in red, whatever. Can you do that on your own document? And if you can't, that might tell you either you do not fully understand what a topic sentence is or any of these items on your notes, or your paragraph is missing that, so you know you need to add it in. And then, of course, if you have a question, you can always send me an email. My email is losburn@mitchellcc.edu. That's my first initial and my last name. I hope that you guys have found this useful and helpful. I will post a link to these notes in your FYI section for this week. Email me if you have any questions.